All right, guys, let's talk about the push press. So the push press is basically a cheating strict press. Now we're going to get our lower body involved. We're going to drive the bar up in the air, and then once we get that momentum on it, we're going to press it the rest of the way. So there's a few things that are going to need to change here, but the main thing is we want to figure out why the heck we would cheat in a strict press. In real life and in most sports, we're not limited by having to do strict movements. So we like the strict movements to develop our ability to stabilize that spine and really develop strong, stable joints. But we also like the more dynamic movements because we can overload those strict movements a little bit more with a little more weight, but it also makes things more dynamic, which is what shows up in sport. So for the push press, what we're looking for is to get everything out of our legs and hips first before we rely on our tiny little arms to press the bar the rest of the way out. So how does this relate back to posture, the squat, the push-up, and the jump? We're going to start with our feet just right under our hips. This is where we're most powerful, like we talked about before. It's the best balance of that wider, really balanced, really mobile position and that really narrow, powerful, tight, not so much balanced position. So feet are right in the middle because we don't need to get our hips really low. So from this position, we're going to set up the same way we always set up. Draw our lower abs in, Kegel, squeeze your butt cheeks, twist your feet in the floor, rib cage down, stand tall. We're going to create that torque in our shoulder. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is we want to get as much power from our lower body into this barbell as possible. So how we want to think of that is if I put the barbell on top of my collarbone, jammed up against my neck, and on top of my shoulders, I have a straight connection from my hips straight into that barbell. So this is going to be the same thing we see in the front squat, in the jerk we talk about later, and in the thruster. So using this front rack position gives us the best possible leverage on the bar. If we have the bar in our hands, now all of this power we're trying to generate from our lower body has to go through our shoulder, our wrist, our elbow and our wrist, and all the muscles in between that can just jiggle around. So it takes a lot more force. So if we get that bar sitting completely on us, we have a straight line that we can generate power straight into that bar. So that's the first step. So let's talk about the setup position. Priority goes on setting up that bar as close to my center of gravity as possible. Remember, center of gravity, we like to think about it as where your shoelaces tie, right in the middle of your hip, in the back of your neck. So anytime we have these movements where the weight is going to be out on the front side of us, we're really trying to get that bar as close to the back of the neck as possible. So I'm going to set up similar to the strict press, hands just outside the shoulders, like we talked about in the strict press video. We want to go as narrow as we can, keeping our hands outside of our shoulders, as narrow as our mobility allows. So the more narrow we go, the stronger and better leverages we have, but the wider we go, the more mobility we have. So if you're someone who's tight in the upper back or in the shoulder, you might want to try out going a little bit wider, and if you have really, really good mobility, you might want to try going a little bit narrower. But everyone's different. Generally what we're looking for is hand just outside the shoulder so we can create that nice torque. So I'm going to get my hands set, and I'm going to go through my checklist. Draw my lower abs in, Kegel, squeeze my butt cheeks, twist my feet in the floor, rib cage down. I'm going to pull those shoulders back in their sockets, and I'm going to twist my pinkies into the bar and try and feel that tightness through my back. From there, I'm going to keep everything tight as I walk in and I put that bar above my collarbone against my neck. Really what I'm trying to do is get it as close to the back of my neck as I can. Millimeters matter here. So from here, keeping my upper back tight, I'm going to drive up and try and get my elbows as high as possible. So notice in the strict press where we weren't using any lower body, my elbows are going to be low, so my forearms can be perpendicular to the bar, so I can really drive and force into it. But since we're going to get our initial starting power from our legs, we're going to bias that rack position, so now the bar is sitting completely on me. So the goal is just to dip a couple inches down and use our hips to drive the bar up. So I'm going to move my head out of the way, drive the bar up with my hips, and then press it the rest of the way. So what we're looking for, really, the timing of our core here, it looks just like that jump. So in that jump position, we're starting here, and then as we jump, we're really trying to get that hip drive. That is in every sport. That is where a lot of the power comes from in these more dynamic weightlifting moves. So what I'm trying to do is get my setup here, and then I'm trying to dip down just a couple inches, just enough so I can load this hip up, and then just really explode and drive and open that hip. So it's all about timing. Just like a golf swing, we're not going to swing with the arms and follow with the hips. In a volleyball spike, I'm not going to jump up, spike, and then slam with my body. What I want to do here is I want to drive the bar with my hips, and then once I'm done driving, that's when I'm going to go for the press. So timing is essential here. Let's look at it one more time. I get set. Drive with the hips, and then press. So, just like the strict press, as the bar is going up, I'm pushing the bar back a little bit, trying to get it over the back of my neck. So, keys to success and our check-in points, it's going to be our setup, making sure that we're making it look as much like a push-up as possible. Everything nice and tight, shoulders back. This time we're going to drive the elbows up to prioritize the bar sitting on top of us so we can get that power out of our legs and hips. The next check-in point is going to be about 2 inches down. Our weight should be even on our feet, so again, we shouldn't be forwards or backwards. We should be trying to squeeze our butt cheeks, drawing our belly button in, holding our Kegel, creating that torque through the ground, so we can go through our checklist the exact same way. Our next check-in point is going to be right here where I drive my hips. A common problem is on the way up, we see people drop their elbows because they start thinking about pressing the bar. So that third check-in point is going to be, are you fully extended at the hip, up on those toes a little bit? You don't roll forward, you drive through the full foot. It'll bring you up on the toes a little bit. So are we here holding that rack position to transfer that power? Once that goes, now we're going to hang tight and press overhead, which is going to be our fourth check-in point here. Are we drawn in? Are we doing everything we're supposed to be doing? Is that shoulder down? Are we creating that rotation into the bar overhead? Remember, as we're coming in and doing multiple reps, a lot of people do really well, and then on the way down, we surrender those positions. So even on the way down, we need to keep everything nice and tight. All right, that's the push press. Enjoy, and I'll see you soon.